Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 70, which is called The Other Side of Anxiety. And yeah, I thought this was actually a really good episode. Obviously not quite on the level of some of the movie episodes we've had more recently, but I think it really highlighted that while I enjoyed the 3 Chocho episodes, I think they managed to accomplish almost a little bit more with metal in this episode than they did in 3 episodes with Chocho. Not that I think they needed to super expand upon this episode. I think it was actually a nice one-off episode to just give Lee, Guy, Metal more development, and it just came across, I think, really well because with Metal's character, he has been probably one of the most one-note characters in terms of like, okay, he's just kind of like a Rock Lee clone, but they've gone down the anxiety path more so than just the carbon copy of Guy. So in this episode we got to see, obviously, I think, the depth to Metal's character, Lee a little bit as a father, and then I suppose more focus on Guy kind of post-injury and so on. And dealing with the whole anxiety thing, I thought they did it really well. I was worried by the start they were going to find some way to like get him past or like remove anxiety from him, but I like that the show doubled down on the fact that like that's who he is, it's a part of him, and to change that would make him a different character. So they just have the character embrace it, and by embracing it rather than trying to like cure it, get past it, buy these kind of necklace things that somehow kind of help him move past it a bit, it basically has the real him come out, and he's able to, I suppose, be the character he needs to be. And I think just them doing that, I think, made Metal a much more interesting character than he was previously. And because this episode wasn't in the manga, I hope they don't just drop this whole like nervous fist or whatever you want to call it, the whole idea of that when he gets nervous and he continues to like fight and not just stand still, he begins to fight in taijutsu with this borderline kind of drunken fist style that we had from like original Naruto, but he does it out of like nervousness and anxiety. So I'd like to actually see that if we get a focus on Metal again, especially if he comes up as like a focus character in the manga, that they don't forget that this was a thing. And I hope this episode isn't considered a like filler, so it doesn't really count all that much. Just because I felt like this was the development Metal needed to become, I think, a more standout character. Similarly, I suppose with Rock Lee, just initially coming across, like, I was a bit like, whoa, that's a bit harsh, Lee, to just kind of immediately cancel the 8 Gates training just because he's anxious. But then you realize it's more because he cancelled because he saw Metal trying to, I suppose, get past his, quote-unquote weakness by just buying something rather than, I suppose, facing it head on, like is the sort of mantra of Guy and Lee of how they do things, kind of, by making the kind of challenges and oaths to themselves. And that's what Metal kind of by the end does, that he rips off all the things that he bought and just accepts that this is a part of himself, and because of that is able to, I suppose in a way, by just accepting it, is able to make it not the kind of crippling weakness that it was to him from before. And now he has this knowledge that actually once he continues on, he's actually still somewhat capable, even though he's always going to be that kind of nervous disposition character. And so they've taken, rounded it off a bit, so it's not just this kind of terrible thing of just he cannot do anything if anyone looks at him, to it being like, yes, look, this is always this person he's going to be. He's never going to be the most confident character, but that's who he is, and that's fine. In the same way that what they did in this episode was kind of get across the idea that Rock Lee, his weakness was that he couldn't do ninjutsu ever. He didn't give up on trying to be a ninja, or he didn't try to force the ninjutsu thing that was never going to happen. So instead, he just devoted himself to becoming the best at taijutsu and accomplished his goal regardless, and got past his weakness while it's still being there. He still can't use ninjutsu, but he's capable despite that and accepted that. And now Guy's weakness is, of course, his kind of badly injured leg. And through his rehabilitation, he's learned to basically improve the rest of his body to the point where he can still put up a good fight. It's still a weakness that he has, that leg is kind of useless to a degree. I think some of the other books, like I think it's the Kakashi book, kind of suggests that when he absolutely needs to, he's recovered enough to where like he can use both legs to a degree. It's just the injured one he can only use for a very short amount of time. But as we see here, he only uses he doesn't use the leg here, but he can still fight them like that. And that was Guy confronting his weakness, and I think just that simple idea of three fairly similar characters, all kind of to in their own way, dealing with their own thing, worked. And then, like a lot of times they tended to do with Lee and Guy episodes, was that they'd say the whole youth thing, they'd be a little too similar. I kind of like that in this episode they didn't do that too much. They saved for right at the end the whole everyone freaking out, getting super emotional, springtime of our youth hug thing. And it worked because it was right at the end and you got to see that similar trait that they all have come out of, like the crazy push-ups, the crazy physical challenges that they set themselves, and how willing they are to do this because they're still in their youth, and stuff like that. So that was, I think, really, really nice to see. And then they showed that Metal has now really shown the ability to unlock the first gate, which is what he does here when he uses the Leaf Hurricane and kind of sends Rock Lee flying back. Which, by the way, really nice Taijutsu fight scene there. They definitely put some effort into that animation, in that they definitely didn't have it go as long or as crazy, but they just had a solid hand-to-hand fight scene with Rock Lee doing the standard high-level Taijutsu and then Metal doing the more crazy movement, and it worked. It worked really well to get across that idea of how crazy Metal's movements were compared to Rock Lee's. So, even though it's a seemingly quote-unquote filler episode because it's not in the manga, it was still, I think, a very notable episode, and that this is one I'd never say to someone skip this episode, because I think it was entirely notable. Just Guy focus, Rock Lee focus, and then this is the Metal Lee episode in the show right now. So it hit all the boxes that it needed to. I just hope they maintain that this episode happened going forward. That when we see Metal fight, he's using his nervous fist style thing, and they don't just go back to, I suppose, what is the quote unquote canon Metal Lee, where he's really competent up until someone sees him and then he just doesn't do anything. I hope they continue what they have from this episode going onwards, and it wasn't just a one-off. So I think that's most of what I have to say about the episode. It was very, very focused as an episode. It was just about this stuff between these three characters, but that's exactly what it needed to do, and so the episode played the role it needed to, it accomplished what it wanted to, and it was good. Is it the absolute high quality episode that like we've had from before? Perhaps not, but I think it's very, very solid. A level above the three Chocho episodes, but maybe not the absolute top tier. So, accomplished what it wanted to. Next episode is a bit of an interesting one, in that it looks like it's going to be an Onoki episode. So, that's a surprise to me, in that it looks like there's going to be a Kage meeting while like Boruto and co meet Onoki here, and they kind of guide him around the village. I wonder what this is going to be about, because it doesn't look like any specific character is getting some sort of a focus with Onoki as such. They showed Kurasuchi a couple of times in the Hokage little clips that they showed, so I assume at some point like Onoki and Kurasuchi will talk about stuff, but I wonder what he'll necessarily teach them. Like, obviously part of this is obviously that he was the one who was very part of the old generation of what the ninja world sort of used to be, and he'd very much be like politicking just for the Stone Village, and perhaps was the one who initially was the most kind of reticent to team up with the rest of the nations. But now it seems like he's taken the approach of what he's learned, and I suppose the benefit of the world as it is now. Like, he's just able to visit the Leaf Village and go wherever he wants. So that's what we're going to get here as one of the wisest and oldest characters in the Naruto universe, talking to our characters and see him presenting something to him. What exactly he goes about teaching them, or what they get from him, meeting him, that's going to be interesting to see. And especially if whatever the Kage meeting is about, if there's any substance of what's going on there, that's another interesting thing as well. So I'm actually surprisingly excited for next week's episode. Just like Onoki episode, that's an interesting character to choose, but I'm very interested because he has the Keke Tota as well. I don't know if he'll show that. I don't know if we'll have him fight or anything, but it would be nice to just even get that mentioned again, because if they are going to go much more and explain a lot of new things to us in Naruto, I think there's a lot of different Keke Totas that we probably need to know, because like the particle style is like 3 specific elemental kind of jutsu kind of preferences kind of attached together. I don't think we've seen any other Keke Tota that is a mix of 3, at least as far as I'm aware. So that'd be cool if they just brought the concept up again here and we get introduced to some of those down the line. So yeah, next week's episode looks very cool. But yeah, that's been my review for episode 70. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode, as well as what I had to say about it. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.